Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Planquatica, our water park here in Planet Coaster 2. Apologies for there not being a video for the last couple of days, although we have had a few live streams on the channel. If you haven't checked one of those out, please do consider joining us. We are live streaming on Saturdays and Tuesdays at the minute, trying to do 10 AM Eastern, although stuff moves around a little bit. And that's kind of the reason why this one has taken a little bit longer. I've had a few other projects to work on, nothing I can really talk about just yet though, unfortunately, but all exciting stuff. Not that I haven't wanted to play Planet Coaster 2, just that I haven't had the time. First of all, starting off with these awesome rainbowy water slides. These are like a raft slide, racing slide, and this is a workshop item. I don't normally use workshop for this kind of stuff, honestly. The reason I always use workshops for somebody's done a real utility thing that I couldn't do as any better. So like gift shop stuff, which is what we've been using a lot in the live stream this week. We've been building a really fun gift shop. So that's the kind of thing I'll use. Clutter, backstage clutter. I saw some great parking stuff, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't usually go as far as using a full ride, but this is just perfect, and to an extent, it is kind of a utility prop because these are pretty standard how you find them in parks, whether they're high budget or low budget. It's really, really great stuff. On the screen is where you will find it. Thank you so much for uploading it to the workshop. The only thing I've done here is come in and change the colours. Colours that they use are nice, but I really wanted this sort of rainbow vibe. And the clever thing here is what they haven't done, rather than just having 5 slides in a row, the bases don't fit very well together for you to have a proper runoff with them. So what you have to do is fake it by having art shapes in between. So, somebody sat and done those art shapes. I'm not going to do it either. So that's great. So yeah, really happy with how that's come together. This episode was going to be me theming them and theming the queue line up to them. But I ended up sort of breaking away and started working on some other bits and bobs. And then they announced that there's a hotfix coming tomorrow when you see this. I think if you watch this on the day it comes out, I think it's tomorrow. It's difficult to know the timings of this sort of stuff at the moment. But they've updated the hotfix basically that's meant to fix slides. So we obviously have the big update coming in December that's tackling a lot of really core issues, and we're very excited for that. The hotfix that is coming is, for want of a better word, making people ride slides. There's about 15 lines of text, but that's basically what it means, I think. They don't favour pools as much. They are happy to ride rides again. They change their mind about riding rides less. All that kind of stuff. Slides, I say, not rides, sorry. But also they're more willing to queue, which I believe is a problem for regular rides. Obviously, we've only really worked with water parks since the game came out. But apparently, at the moment, they only line up like enough to fill the coaster. So like if there's 3 cars of 12, only 36 people will line up basically. So that's hopefully going to be addressed as well, along with their propensity to go into pools is going to be lessened, so that they favour slides. So with that in mind, I kind of wanted to just hold off on the slides and be like, well, okay. We'll come back and have another look at those once they're maybe active, and instead we'll work on some other stuff. That's kind of how I've got to grips with Planet Coaster 2. I'm just building some trellis here, by the way, if you're wondering what this is. A lot of people came into the game, realized that wooden supports on GCIs were broken, and then built a GCI and moaned about it. Or they realized that roller coaster friction wasn't a thing, and then built a coaster that wouldn't work without roller coaster friction. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously I never want to sort of yuck anyone's yay. You play the game how you like, but what you can do is, knowing a lot of the fixes are going to be coming for this sort of stuff, just go and do something else. That's how it works for me. Okay, so I'm a relatively creative player anyway. I often just sort of play with Lego here. All the settings are turned off or what have you. It would be nice to see people ride the slides, but it's not the end of the world for me, honestly. We build a lot of things that people don't use anyway, because they're not in the game, like the splash pads or whatever. Funny I should mention that. We're building a splash pad today. We'll talk about that in a moment when we get there. But yeah, I don't know. For me personally, the stuff that doesn't work, all right, cool. Let's just ignore that then and find something else cool to do. There's so much to do in this game. And I'm not, like, this isn't me sort of shilling for Frontier. Like, of course this stuff should work, you know, like it's kind of ridiculous that the game came out as sort of janky as it did. But it did. So, you know, what are you going to do about it? You can sit there and moan, or you can refund and play something else, or just go and play something else while you wait for this one to fix, or you can do something else in this game like I'm doing. But sitting there and constantly posting, oh, this should have already been fixed, that ain't getting you anywhere. They're working on it. You know, I don't know. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. All right, we're just so copying and pasting a little here. These are the sort of buildings that they would duplicate, so I don't really mind doing this. And we do end up adjusting them a little to have them fit into the space. Really starting to get to grips with the path tool now, but I'm certainly not doing the wonders that Taggy 3D is doing. If you're not already following Taggy, you need to go and check him out on YouTube. He's a relatively newer YouTuber, and at the moment his planet content is tutorials around the path system, but my god, the man is working magic. I genuinely don't know how he does it. Individual pixels of path being removed to create collision. All of this was done before I saw that most recent video. It's definitely something I'm going to come in and have a look at. He's doing some really good stuff. My worry is that it's all a little janky and is the sort of stuff that breaks with updates. You know what I mean? It's that kind of jankiness. Talking of cool path things, I didn't know before that if you had two paths, the same path but coloured differently next to each other, you don't get the black line in between them. I was expecting a black line to sit here between this blue and the water and the sand here, but it didn't. It is a little jank how it works. I'm sure Taggy would know exactly why it does this and how to fix it. But yeah, I found that quite neat. You can actually just use the same colour path and put them together, and you don't get the black line in between them. And yeah, that's neat. Another thing they mentioned when they were talking about this hotfix that's coming Thursday is some more updates to the December update and what we can expect. And one of those things is that they're removing logos from paths, it says. Now, I assume that's the logo that features on the queue lines. It could be the little logos that feature in between the paths here, or in the or on the edges of the raised path. But I feel like they must have seen enough content now moaning about paths to know to get rid of that. Oh, look, that's done. So what we're working on here then is a splash pad in the truest sense of the word. So we already have like a water play area that is like a climbing structure with slides and with the bucket and tipping. And that for me is really designed for sort of 8, 9, 10-year-olds moving into like preteens. And just like big kids who want to mess around as well. It's still pretty extreme for toddlers, for little kiddies, and I really wanted an area for them as well. And I had a look, and Typhoon Lagoon has one of these, and pretty much every town I can think of here in North America has one of these as well. A splash pad, which is really not a pool; it's a concreted area. Or maybe it's a different finish, I'm not sure, but it seems like it's concrete. The whole thing is very slightly tiered towards grates that take the water away, and then there's just lots of things that create water, spouts and little waterfalls and little water guns that you can move around, and it's just a place for children to interact with water. There's a really fantastic one of these in my town of London, Ontario, the city I live in. It's in a place called Storybook Gardens, which is a kind of a theme park for toddlers, really. They have a handful of flat rides and then lots of different play structures and sort of music. Can't think what the word is. Just like exhibitions, I guess. No, that's not the word I'm thinking of, but whatever. They have lots of things that kids can play with, and they also have this fantastic splash pad. So this isn't modelled on it, although there are elements modelled on it, like individual units modelled on it, which I'll point out in a moment. And then also it's based a little bit on the one at Typhoon Lagoon, and then it's also just a few reference images as well. And one of them had this little stream, and I wondered if I could recreate it using the water from the game. So that is a pool there, but I spent some time with art shapes completely covering it up, and I think it's absolutely awesome. I'm really happy with how it's come out. It's super subtle. The guests completely ignore it. It's right up Geekism Street. It's a thing that doesn't do anything. in a game where I can build something that does something. I can build a pool and I can build slides, and I ignore them both and I make this little stream of water. But the idea is that it's not a pool, it's just a little stream of water the kids can come and splash around in. This really is built for like toddlers, little kids, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is very much the edge of the park here, so I wanted to sort of cap off the edge here, but I didn't want to just do what we've done in a lot of other places, the sort of very severe rock work, because I wanted it to be sort of safe and a little bit more just not quite as imposing as the huge rocks would be for a kids area. So I decided on this sort of tiered garden, so to speak, using this gorgeous Viking stone. Absolute one of the best pieces in the game for me so far. This there's Viking fence, and then there's two other sort of stone short walls that we've used around the place. Oh, there's a bit of a cut there, sorry. A lot of the busy work I've cut out of this video because it was going to be a little long if I'd left it all in. So all I've done there is sort of added in some of the mulch pieces, the stone, the dirt pieces, and then just planted it with all of the plants that you're already seeing around the park. So you'll see it again in the time lapse later on. Those wall pieces they're great. I love those to bits. There was also like 2 crashes during the building of this as well. I'm not losing loads, honestly. The autosave is kind of saving the day a lot of the time, as it should, but I am losing a little bit of progress. One of the things I lost there was the little water tippy thing. It's just using one of the rotating pieces and then some aquatic pieces and some barrels, and it just sort of tips some water out and gets spun around. They were placing down some little water things on the edges. Again, these are all sort of based on ones I found online. This is based on the one at Storybook Gardens. They have these little tubes here that they're just plastic tubes that kids climb through. Like, there's really nothing very special about them. They climb through them. They're made of a hard plastic, but every edge is smooth, so it isn't really a problem. Now I'm copying the one over that I made before to make another different variation of it, and this one also features in Storybook Gardens. It has these three things here that spin around, and I think, actually thinking about it, I might need to go back and add something to this, because you can spin it round, the kids can spin it round, and there's like a handle, a wheel on the bottom that you can turn, and it spins these round, and all they do is squirt water out, but then underneath them is another sort of metal frame that has a few buckets on. So you can take the time to line these water things up with the buckets, and they act as mini versions of the tippy bucket that we built a few weeks ago, the classic sort of bucket that tips out. So you can turn these so that they're over the buckets, and then when the buckets fill, they tip up. Or you can just sort of spin them around and have the water come out. Here, obviously, it just spins just to give it a little bit of dynamicism, a little bit of momentum. But it's meant to look like one of these things where you can fill up the bucket yourself and they tip down on the kids. And you always get kids are there always trying to get their buddies to come and stand under it. And, it's always good fun to watch. Xander absolutely adores these places. He's getting a little old for them now, honestly, but God, for the last few years, if you'd have asked me, why did you move, what's the best thing about Canada? Why did you move here? Why are you staying here? These splash pads, man, oh my goodness, they're most of them are free. They're sort of set up in the local municipal parks, but the Storybook Gardens ones does cost a few bucks to go in, but it's really good. It's much higher themed and much more developed. It looks a little bit more like this one, and my goodness, the weather's nice. You could go there, you could cover him in one coat gloss, factor 120 sunscreen, and let him have a day out of it. He would absolutely love it. Sometimes there's just flowers that squirt water. That's what we're building here. I just wish those aquatic pipes could go another 20% smaller. They would be so useful if they could go as thin as like a drain pipe. My goodness, they would be useful. Here we go. There's a few of those flowers around now. And then also the other thing that these places have, it's just water coming out of the ground. This may even look like it's a little lazy. This just happens. Oh, I didn't get any footage of the boat. That's really annoying. That must have happened after a crash. There's a little boat. I was really quite happy with that, actually. I'm annoyed I haven't got the footage about that now. It's one of the Viking pieces. It's like a little rowboat, it's all battered up, and all I did was take some time with art shapes to give it a new roof, a new sort of floor, I guess, so as that the kids can climb up it, and then wherever it looked too jaggedy or are too broken up, I kind of covered it up with art shapes or with rocks or whatever, and then used some of those awesome wave pieces to kind of give it a little shape in the water. And all it is a little area that the kids can climb up to, and there's a few water guns that they can point around. I also made the blue of the blue water area there just a little darker because it was a little too subtle for me. It probably looked great to most people, but as a colorblind person, I kept struggling to see where it stopped being blue and where it started being this sort of sandy color that we've used throughout the park. So the other side of this then is another sort of seating area. Two reasons. One, oh my god, go and look at these places in real life. There is so much seating, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seats around the place, these sun lounges. So I just want to try and squeeze them in wherever I can. But then also I just thought it'd be a nice area to have if you just come here for the day with a toddler. You can take it in turns to lounge on the sun lounger while your other half goes and follows the toddler around the water area. Or if they're a little older or they've got a bigger brother or bigger sister, you can chill out with a drink and just keep sort of one eye on them while you lounge. So that's kind of why I wanted another area here. The fences in the game are really great, but sometimes you just want to do something a little bit more custom. So that's what this is here. Again, that gorgeous Viking wall and the pillars and the rope, just trying to sort of carry on the vibe throughout the area. That Viking wall from the retaining wall of the garden there just brings it through. I'm just trying to colour in it so it's roughly the same as the tropical rocks. You'll notice in the area I've actually used a much lighter rock. I think it's the Mediterranean rock. You'll see it here and a few other places as well. Really wanted that to kind of look like fake rock. Like obviously all of these large tropical rocks will have been brought in, but I really wanted the med rocks to look sort of very fake, like they've really been placed down for the area. And also a lighter colour is a little bit more sort of kid friendly, Here, leaving a few areas open for people to walk in. These are not functional fences, so they just kind of walk through them when they do come over here in the end. Again, if we get the boundaries up and running, that'd be awesome. If not, we're going to look at messing around with these pixel pieces on the maps on the path of Taggy. It's pretty intense stuff. So I want to sit down a lifeguard here, one so that the game stops telling me the pool is unsafe, but also, there would always be staff watching all of these areas, even if it is just sort of an inch of water. And I thought rather than just putting one down with an umbrella, seeing as this is a very sort of specific area that sort of one person is just standing over and looking, I thought about sort of boxing the middle a little bit. You can't change the colour of the lifeguard chair. That would be great. Like if we could change that wood colour, it would be really great because you'd make it a real woody colour and you wouldn't have to do a lot of this, and it would just tie in with the areas a lot more rather than it having the sort of brilliant white there. Like it's really nice. It's actually quite understated. I'd even love it if it didn't have the sign on it. But as for by Planco standards, it's actually quite a nice plain chair. So it could have been. Let's be honest, it could have been much worse. It could have been a big blobby thing with like buttons and levers that he pulls to check the water or whatever. They're doing much better at that sort of stuff. So we have to sort of give them credit where it's due. But if you could recolor it, I wouldn't have to sit and do this where I'm sort of covering it with planks. It looks pretty good by the end, to be honest. Thanks, buddy. That really made me laugh. He got up and walked off just while I was trying to get under his legs. It's like, listen, I'll just move. It's going to be a lot easier for you. Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. So we're just using a range of tiki and then just sort of wooden pieces to fake it till we make it, basically. And I think it turns out really quite nice. Makes it look a little bit more sort of present, and again just continues that idea of this park being a higher budget park. Of course it has lifeguards, it needs people to be around to make sure they're safe, but this is a sort of park who would make their lifeguard spot a little bit more permanent. I also thought about maybe having like a little first aid tent here or something as well. I don't quite know whether I've got the room for it, but that's something I'm also going to have a little look at once I get back into the park. So, at some point, you just kind of have to call these bits done. I always try and build to the thumbnail. I always try and sort of finish a little area off to be able to say, look, here is the episode, here's what you build in. But, really with a lot of this stuff, it's all relatively organic and it all sort of blends together. And that's, especially with a high budget park like this, you've really got to kind of build with that in mind, that just sort of everything flows into everything else. The back of one thing is the front of something else. And you really have to sort of take a lot of that into consideration when you're building. For instance, oh my words, current Jonty is doing great with past Jonty. For instance, the back of this, it is just the back of the chair, but also it's customer facing. It's right opposite the path there. So if you can't hide it, make it a thing. So instead, we thought we'd turn it into a little blackboard. This sign is perfect. It has like a blackboard texture on it, which is fantastic. And then using these text signs that I love. I will be honest, in the live stream I was getting a little bit frustrated with them because the bounding boxes are a little funky on them, which is why I've sort of pulled them out here to build and then sort of placed it back in. But using the sort of handwritten looking fonts to try and make it look like it's sort of written with chalk paint. And we call it Hekawi Creek. That's a little nod to a couple of things, honestly. The one of these at Typhoon Lagoon is called Ketchikiddy Creek. And I was just trying to think of a name that sounded like it kind of fit that. Like I guess it's like a little Aboriginal, maybe. I'm not sure if it actually means anything or if it just sounds that way. And I thought about my grandfather. He's obviously passed away now, but he constantly told jokes, constantly told the same jokes all the time. And he had a joke about some explorers finding a tribe, and the tribe were called the Hekawi tribe because they wanted to know where the heck are we, or something like that. I don't know. It's terrible. It's probably a little offensive now. I apologize, but it was a granddad joke. You know what I mean? And that's always just stuck in me. The heck are we? So we call this Hekawi Creek for no other reason than it's a word. It's a made-up word that sounds kind of right for this sort of thing. We had a lot of fun with the signage here. The signage ends up being like a little bit more sort of leaning into the aquatic and the leaky pipes than the rest of the area does. So I may go back and tweak the area to add in a little bit more of this piping, because I do enjoy that aesthetic in kids' play areas at water parks. I do enjoy the leaky pipe aesthetic. We've already done it over in the other play area, but I kind of want to bring it over to here as well. It just gives you, you just stick that there with water coming out of it and it instantly looks awesome. This actually gets rebuilt. It does end up looking pretty much like this, but I did have one more crash here. So I had 2 crashes this week. It really isn't the end of the world. It'd be great if they didn't happen though. But here I don't know, I saw this arch piece, and if I can't use it for something like this, where can I use it in here, We had a little vent there. Last thing I wanted to do then is place the umbrellas in the area, like that's what we've been doing. I saw Ruble Trillions, awesome creator, put a picture on Bronation where he had used these to trim the umbrellas. Ugh, how good is that? So good, in fact, that it made the game crash. Right about there, I think. Bloop, there we go. So it happens off camera. But yeah, how good. Just what a little detail. The exact sort of thing we're looking for. And that's why, I've said it before, I say it again, I don't work well in a bubble. I steal stuff constantly. and so do everyone else. And the reason we share all this stuff is to give people these ideas. So yeah, thank you to Ruble for showing me that, putting the name in the umbrella. That's so awesome. I love it. And if you're not already, go and follow him. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I think this has turned out pretty nice. We'll carry on with the slides once people ride them. So in the next episode, we hope we will see people riding the slides. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, Ultimates. Until the next one, be good.